Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Monday, the 15th day of April, 2024. Well, I started once and my screen got weird, and so I just restarted it. So I've already taken the Elder Futhark rune, though, so I'm going to keep it. We're going to open here with, for the higher self side, or as above side, Perthro. Now, Perthro is the 14th rune of the of the Elder Futhark. I'm going to say major arcana. And basically what it means is chance or fate, and who determines that. Directionality is important. If you're to throw it down and have it come up a certain way, this is open to birth, this is death, this is the womb, this is a cauldron. But basically we're talking about, it can be a well, like the well of Mimir or the well of Word. It can talk about childbirth, healing, understanding fate, cause and effect, synchronicity. It can be a divination tool, the idea of chance or fate, and what is your fate going to bring today. But again, who controls that? Is it the ego that controls the fate? Are you giving your choices away to other people? Or is higher self deciding what that's going to be? And so as the as above side of things, we're going to talk about it from the standpoint of higher self, and let higher self control your fate. Because it's the soul's journey here. And we forget that, I think, at times. So anyhow, let's throw down the below side with the geomancy runes. Let's see what we've got here. We're going to put this in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. Well, this is easy. This is populous. Populous is the complement of via, whereas via is a new path. This would be via. Populous would be, and that would be a very active principle. Anytime you see single dots as part of the geomancy rune, it's going to be an active principle, so the whole thing is active. So this is initiating a new path. But whereas that's the single dots, with populous you have two dots all the way down for fire, air, water, and earth. And so that's a passive influence. So whereas this would be Via would be taking that initiative to start a new path or to go on to a new path, this would be somebody who's a follower. And so who's going to control your fate? Is it going to be the group? Is it going to be group think, as they say? Or is it going to be, let's see, oh goodness, my iCloud storage is almost full. Okay, well, looks like I need to get my thumb drive out and copy some video files over or something. That's probably what's doing it. But anyhow, could be all the pictures we take too. That's probably part of it. So I have to go in and take some of those out too. But anyway, I just love when little messages come up. It's like, oh, you can't save anything anymore. It's like, really? Okay. So anyhow, who controls my fate? I guess me, and how much I upload, and my husband and how much he uploads. So anyway, because we've got like a family sharing thing going on there. So anyway, but again, the idea of having the group do your thinking for you, or passively following along and not thinking for yourself. To me, that's, and then the other side of that, though, is you could also be going along a shared path. But again, who controls your choices? Who controls your fate? In other words, sometimes, your fate's just out of your hands. If an insurance company decides to cancel you, for example, they have their reasons, you don't understand them. And so your fate over all of that is in the hands of an insurance company, for example. Or if a credit card company decides to change its rates, that's what they do. Well, your fate again is in their hands. But is it? You can choose to not use that anymore. You could choose to not spend as much, to pay cash. I mean, you could do all kinds of things to not have that control your life. But at the same time, sometimes it just is what it is, and you have to use it. Well, you can either look around for another credit card, and I know people who do that. They just kind of play credit card roulette, Uh, or you can just passively follow along and say, well, this is just what I need to do. So in a sense, you're still controlling your choices there. But at times we just feel like we don't have any choices. Mindset wise, you could be talking about the who you follow. If you are following along with the crowd and you're not thinking for yourself, maybe sometimes you can get yourself into trouble that you otherwise would have thought better of. But you can't get yourself away from that group of friends you're with, and so they're a bad influence. Maybe they want you to do things that really aren't right. And so again, who controls your fate? And when you're following along with the crowd, sometimes you find yourself in positions that really isn't the best place to be. I would say what happened on January 6th in 2021. That is an example of maybe people following along, and now they're finding themselves in jail. So that's a an example all of us know about. But in any event, let's see where the cards take us on this. I just think that if you're following along in terms of unity with other people, it's got to be higher vibratory. Otherwise, there's a risk that egos get involved, and maybe you end up involved in something that was not your intention. But suddenly you're there, and it's like, okay, how do I extricate myself from this? Well, you leave. It's really, as hard as it might feel to do, sometimes that's just what you have to do. You have to separate yourself from that whole experience and just not hang out with those people anymore, if you're being influenced that way. But let's go ahead and do the numerology here for the reading. We had a 14 for Perthrow. That reduces to 5. So 5 plus, we have the 7 of Pentacles, plus the High Priestess, which is 2 from the Major Arcana, plus 3. From the 3 of Pentacles. So we have 17. 17 reduces to 8. So we have an 8 numerology for the reading. Let me write that down here. Okay. I always forget to do that. Anyhow, I'm going to take a look at this here for a second and see how I want to look at this. I think that let's go ahead and use the High Priestess as the, let's align that with Perthrow here on the higher awareness side, because the High Priestess, so we'll talk about her first. The High Priestess is card 2 of the Major Arcana. Now, Major Arcana cards are soul archetype cards. In very much the same way I regard the runes as soul archetype things. The broader messages that the soul is going to explore when the soul is viewing itself in this type of setting, we'll say. And here you see 2 is also about balance and love and compassion and healing and reciprocity. But here you're looking at the shadow side of self, and here you would look at the feminine side, the masculine side. You could look at it that way. These are actually the pillars of Solomon, and you see behind her, you see a pomegranate tapestry. And essentially, if you could see behind her, you would see that it's the tree of life from the Kabbalah. You see the maiden mother crone represented there in her crown, if you will. She's wearing like a blue headdress that comes down. You see the cross here that you also see in Judgment. So it's almost like I look upon this as the vertical line is the soul infusing itself into this reality. And then the horizontal line would be the masculine and feminine polarity, or you could also think of that if you don't want to. It's too easy to see that as gender, and it's not. So the masculine side would be projective or active principle, and the feminine side would be receptive principle. And so you're looking at the balance between the two. So this would actually be more physical reality based. The horizontal line would be same with in Judgment with the angel Gabriel blowing his horn and waking everybody up out of their coffins. You see a flag, a pennant type thing attached to that horn, and there's a red cross. The same thing. This one, of course, is white. The high priestess essentially represents the subconscious and intuition, the divine feminine. She's about compassion and inner wisdom and balance, but it's literally you've got the magician, which is card 1. He's the one that creates the elemental form, if you will, and that would be one side of physical reality for the soul to embrace, right? It's the body, it's the surrounding, it's the trappings of life, basically. And he's drawing down spirit into that. He's invoking spirit into that experience. But then the high priestess again is about our intuition. It's the subconscious realm. It's alignment. It's change. It's dreams. It's the dream state. But it's balance, and as well. And so, in terms of controlling your fate, then, if you allow the higher awareness side of self to do that, then you're not as reactive. Maybe you sit back and somebody wants you to do something. It's like, well, let me think about it, instead of just jumping in with both feet and saying, sure, let's go. Well, it's always fun, but maybe not so much, when you're looking at the reality of the idea of who controls your fate. Are you doing it, or is the group process, or the group think, the group mindset doing that? And again, that's ego-based if that's the case. And I think with the high priestess, why I want to do this is the subconscious realm the ego can take advantage of that, essentially, and draw that into a lower vibrational energy. And the idea behind the high priestess, I think, is to keep that vibration high and to allow a broader understanding of things to sort of guide the decisions that you make. Therefore, you're making a more informed decision about what your fate is. Now let's go to both cards here. Both are from Pentacles, by the way, again. And so what that means in a reading is that it would be termed you have a run on Pentacles, okay? And Pentacles is the earth element. So it's our physical reality. It's our work, it's our home, it's our tradition, it's inheritance, it's family. And so it's just basically the nuts and bolts of how we live our lives. And here, again, with the high priestess, it's not a 7 card, but since there's a level of observation and subconsciousness at work, so again, intuition is a more inner type of an experience. Now, with the 8 numerology for the whole reading, you could one of the key words for the 8 is strength. It's also leadership and material recognition and approval, greater harmony, all of that. But I think the inner strength that we're talking about here to control our own fate is quite necessary. So I think it's interesting that we have an 8 numerology for the whole reading. And again, using the subconscious realm, keeping it a higher vibratory state. In a sense, you could just look at the high priestess as the soul, essentially, that seems to sit in the background, that most of the time we're not aware of that. We're so fixated on this life that we're living, we forget that we're a soul doing that. And it's really important, I think, in terms of, you hear people in the New Age community talk about ascension. Well, ascension can mean a lot of different things, but for me, right now, it means being aware that you're a soul and trying to view your experiences from whatever you think that is. All right. And so this higher vibratory resonance where you're not judging things, you're observing things carefully. And here you see in the 7 of Pentacles, that's exactly what he's doing. 7 is about observation. It represents the scales in my estimation. So you're letting those pans come to a rest before seeing what you have. And that's essentially what he's doing here. He's looking at his harvest or the growth, either one. It may be that they're still growing, but you don't really see the grapes yet on the vine yet. So you just see the beginning process. When my grapes, I have grapes, I grow grapes. And so you see first you keep waiting, for the little buds to open and the leaves to start coming. And then after it gets nice and bushy, then you start to see the grapes forming. Well, you don't see that yet. And there he is leaning on his hoe. The farmer is, and he's just sort of taking stock. You see all the coins that are within the grapevines, and you see one on the ground there. What he's trying to assess here is, do I have enough? Do I have enough for my family for the winter? Do I have enough to sell? Or do I need more? And so that's kind of the idea here. Am I being, is my material security, if you will, is it there, or do I need to adjust some things and to make sure that happens? And again, who controls that? Is it the elements? Maybe, we were forecasted to have had hail. We didn't. It was in another area of Central Oregon, I think, if it happened at all. I don't know. I haven't seen yet the news, so I don't know if it did. But we had quite a bit of rain, and which can happen sometimes here on the high desert, but not a lot because it's the high desert. But back in the 90s, we actually had golf ball size hail. And we've never had that before or since. So places that have the really big damaging hail, we all experience it. We had to have our cars fixed. We had to have the house fixed. We had to have windows fixed. I mean, it was a lot of stuff, and we had to file with the insurance company to do it. And fortunately, they didn't dump us after that. We still have them, but it's there. There's an example of the elements controlling your fate on that day. And I know people used to grow. Some of the farmers in the area used to grow big crops of potatoes. I think they stopped doing that because it just took them out. And it wasn't uncommon. We would have small hail, and it would still damage things. But that stuff, man, it stripped the leaves from the trees. What a mess that was. It killed birds. It was awful. And so places that have, baseball size hail, I wouldn't even know what to do. I just would move. I couldn't live there. So, because it's just devastating, right? But there's an example of where, in this case with the farmer, elements could control the outcome of this. And so at this juncture, though, he's in charge of that. He's deciding what he needs to do. And again, it's thinking about not just himself, but how is this what can he sell and make money with? What can he use to provide for the family, either through the money or through all the other stuff he's growing? And he and his spouse going and putting everything up for the winter. And so he's making that decision here. So there's a decision that's also involved in the 7. But there's also a level of spirituality. It's non-reactive, in other words. And it's not that with Perthro, you're not going to it's not like you're never going to react. You're just going to do it from having a whole lot of information instead of letting impulse drive that decision, right? You want to get all the facts. The farmer wants to get all the facts of things. So whatever this fate is here today with Perthro, it has something to do with your material security, given the run on Pentacles. And so maybe, or this could either be 2 different scenarios, or maybe these 2 scenarios are connected. So maybe, the farming is not something he does full time. Maybe he's also a mason. And so with the 3 of Pentacles here, he's got some fallback. He's not depending solely on this for his material security. So maybe that's what the message is. Don't put your eggs all in one basket, right? But here he's working on his craft. He's plying his trade, if you will. He's doing out in the open. You can see, we'll just assume he did all this as well. You can see how beautiful and ornate his work is. And you've got 2 people that have come by, and I can never tell if this obviously looks like a woman. And maybe this is too, but I think of this as a man and a woman because the face looks more masculine to me. And they all wore robes back in the day, so I don't think it indicates a woman. I think it could be a couple here. But if not, we'll just say two people have walked by and they've stopped to talk to him about what he can do. Maybe they're just simply saying, hey, this is a great job. You're doing a really nice job here. Maybe there are people that will then refer him on to other people that need that kind of work done. They may say, oh yeah, go look at that. Oh, go look at that one building. He's been working on that. He looks like he'd be somebody that's reliable and responsible and dependable, and he could maybe do this job for you. Or maybe they want to hire him themselves to do something for them. But it's that integration of being able to see what somebody can do and having that sell the work, basically. And having the potential for referrals. But 3 is about communication, integration, creativity, optimism. But 3 is basically an integration or interaction type of a number. And so they're having that conversation, and perhaps they're going to hire him. So we've got 2 ways here to deal with your material security. One that maybe you do at night and on the weekends and in the morning before you go to work. Like those of us who, when before my husband and I retired, that's what we would do. We would get things done around here because we have 5 acres, and then we go to work, right? And do what we got to do there. But then we come home, we still have stuff to do. I mean, we have chickens. We didn't at the time. Well, when we first moved here, we did, but then we didn't. And then now we do. We got them back in 2017, but we were already retired then. But if we hadn't been, then there's things to do, right, to keep everything going. And I think that when you're looking at here, 7 and 3 is 10, so 10 reduces to 1, that's new beginnings. So maybe this is a new way of looking at things. There could also be leadership involved with the 1. 1 basically represents the sun and the identity and all of that. But you're looking at, with the High Priestess here and Perthro, instead of following along with the crowd and maybe taking your attention away from your responsibilities, that's going to end up controlling what happens here, right? If you're not focused on taking care of the mundane tasks of maintaining your material security. And so this could simply be a reading of, maybe you're trying to make a decision here, and you find yourself, or maybe you find yourself, things are backing up at work, things are backing up at home. You could look at these 2 cards that way. And you may feel like, oh, everything's very overwhelming. But think of it in terms of the choice you're making. Because if things feel overwhelming, for me, when I feel overwhelmed, it's like, well, okay, what am I doing wrong here? Because I should have a handle on all of this. So why don't I? Am I making choices I shouldn't make? Am I being influenced by others? Is my attention being taken away? Am I just not doing something? You could be just being very passive in your life and just not doing anything at all. You're online every day. That's all you do. You're watching TV, you're whatever, but you're not taking care of the mundane tasks. And these 2 cards are suggesting that, that this is where your focus needs to lie. And if it's not, then you have to figure out where that distraction is coming from. And again, who controls the outcome? Who controls the fate with Perthro? Is it you, or is it your lack of attention to detail? It's still you, but you're not making the choices you're making. And and I think about that only because of Populus being a passive influence. Perhaps you're just choosing to check out and not really be present in your life and taking care of the business you need to take care of. And so, if you haven't watered the garden in a while, maybe you need to go out there and look at it and see if it's still there, So it's getting into the habit of the mundane, but at the same time, being able to see the higher purpose of it all, and not allowing the distractions of other people maybe to take you in a direction that you don't need to go. It's one thing after you've taken care of all of the foundational stuff. Then, if you have time to play, well, okay. But otherwise, you know, something about your fate, and which fate in this case involves material security. Something about that's going to be affected by that passivity, right? And so, are you giving it all away because you don't feel like doing anything, or and maybe there's a reason for that. But if there's not, then maybe this is the struggle that you're having. And with the high priestess, you use that inner wisdom to understand that this is not going to get me anywhere. It's not going to get me where I need to go. So I have to sacrifice a little bit. Maybe I can't go play on the weekends with my friends. Maybe I need to tackle the home front a little bit better. Maybe I need to do some yard work. Maybe I need to, do some repairs around the place, or just clean up, Maybe it's just gotten to the point where things are a mess and you can't find your way anywhere, because you've got to clear a path to get there. So it could be, different ways to look at the passive side here of populace. But I think, to me, it just feels like a distraction from the mundane stuff you have to take care of, going to work, taking care of home and what's going on there, and using that inner wisdom to understand that, it's not really a sacrifice that you're making. You've made the choice to work, to have a home, all the responsibilities therein that you have to deal with on a daily basis, but sometimes things get out of control when you don't focus on that. And pretty soon it's like you come home and it's like, oh boy, what a mess. And so you have to dig in, and you're going to have to, and all the things you might have wanted to do, you're just going to have to set them aside, essentially, and I think focus on what really matters. And if this is following along with the crowd, if it's taking you away from the mundane aspects of your life, you're going to have to make a decision. Who's going to control all that? Are you going to control it? Or are you going to let, this passive type of response where, sure, I'll go along with you. You'll go along with the crowd, but it's at the expense of what's happening in your personal life, your work and your home. And again, the inner wisdom to understand balance between the two, to maintain a healthier balance. When you don't, then you're not in control of your fate. You see, you're not in control of the outcome. Other things are. And again, that could just simply be your ego that is. But Populus is suggesting that there's either too much of a receptive presence where you're following along and you're taking your eye off the ball, so to speak, or at the same time, it could just be that you're being too influenced by a group of people that's taking you away from the things that actually matter in life. And you're letting that stuff all fall away when that all has to be tended to. So I think that's how we're starting out the week here today, is how are we going to see the responsibilities that we have? Are we going to take them seriously and understand the bigger picture that all tends to create for us? We have a home, we have a family, maybe we have responsibilities, and those things have to get taken care of before you can then go and have yourself distracted with other things. So I think this is just a really simple reading. Again, with the 8 numerology, this may take some inner strength if you're kind of used to hanging out and not really taking care of business. Well, maybe as they say, the chickens are coming home to roost here, and the consequences of that are being felt. And if so, again, you take a look at it. It's so easy to blame other people. Well, it's all their fault. No, you've made a choice. And the choice maybe is not what's going to manifest material abundance and security for you. You might have fun, but the bills still have to be paid, and attention has to be paid to where you live, and attention has to be paid to your job. And So sometimes we get out of balance with that, and we forget that. It's like and here's the other thing, maybe the forgetting it is signaling that a change needs to be made in how you do this sort of thing. But the bottom line is, with Perthrow, you're the one that makes that decision. It's not going to be somebody else. Well, I mean, it might be, but you don't want that, all right? You need to stay in control of all of this and manage all of it effectively. So, anyhow, I think that's it. Not the most fun way to start a Monday, but it's also not a lot of drama either, because sometimes that happens. And it's like, geez, that was heavy. Anyhow, that's all I got today. Check out the blog over at Stepping Aside. The web address is there, is imsteppingaside.com. If you forget, click on more below the video. It's always there in that little box that pops up. And if you scroll down to the bottom of it, that's where I am on social media, which, may be the problem here in the reading. Maybe you're spending too much time on social media and not enough time cleaning up. But anyway, check all that out. The forecast came out for the week. The correspondences for Work and Magic this week are out. The astrological overview is out, and the Exploring Tarot card is up. And again, I still have a little bit more to do there and before I'm done with that series, but I'll keep you informed. The newsletter went out on Saturday. If you want to sign up for that, you just look on the side panel, scroll down a little bit. You'll see that. You put your email in there. You can unsubscribe at any time. Newsletter's free. You're just getting the stuff I write out on Saturday instead of on Sunday. So anyhow, that's there. And sometimes, I'm an affiliate for Herbal Academy, and I sometimes put things that they're offering, classes they're offering. Sometimes that's in there. But that's really it as far as that goes. But let's see, what else do I need to tell you? I guess that's it. Anyhow, click subscribe if you haven't. I would love you to do that, and come back again on Thursday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.